Listener's discretion is advised. In this episode, we discuss sensitive topics about domestic violence with a domestic violence sexual assault investigator. If you even question that you could be in a situation like this, please call one of these 24-hour hotlines. The National Domestic Violence Hotline. The number is 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-7233. Another you can call is the Women's Resource Center based out of Georgia. This is 404-688-9436. If you are in an emergency situation, call or text 911 now.
Hey, you! You're tuned in to the Skirts Up Show with Samantha and Melissa. Join our mission to normalize failure, but still uncover the positives at every twist and turn. Skirts up, but keep your panties on. What's up, Skirts Up Squad? It's Samantha.
And Melissa.
Welcome to October.
We have made it to my favorite season.
Oh, mine too.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite months, even though I couldn't give you like a list of like shitty things that have happened in October in my life, but it's still like my favorite month.
I love it so much.
The leaves change, the weather changes.
Yeah. When people talk about seasonal depression, it's funny because a lot of times they'll talk about getting depressed in the winter. I am so happy when summer's over because I don't handle the heat. And I'm like, bring me all of like I want to bundle up. I want to.
There's a difference between fall happy though and depressed winter. Like I'm probably going to fall into depressed winter if we actually get snow and like cold nonstop because I hate that. But fall, like I feel like we have a perfect fall in Atlanta. Like
that's fair.
Like you can wear leggings.
I still don't get as depressed in the winter.
Well, lucky you.
I literally have the opposite, like summer seasonal depression. So I'm so, it's rough for me.
I love summer. Oh, okay. So I have a few specific favorite days of the year. One of them is the first day, like when it's almost spring and it's the first day that's warm enough to go to a restaurant and sit outside and have an alcoholic drink. Like that is a key day for me of each year.
Okay.
Love it. And then the next favorite day of the year that is also just a random day is like the first day of the season when it's changing into fall, and it makes me want to like put on a little sweater and go put a fire on outside.
That's so funny because I would say I have two key days. And they're basically the same day as your fall description. Mine is when it starts getting chilly in the fall, and then in spring when it's like you can go outside, but it's still cold. But it's sunny. Yeah,
I love that because that means like I'm not the only one that
no.
has like a big holiday.
No.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird. So like when I was pregnant with Nora, I remember like obviously I was so excited and happy to be pregnant with Nora.
Right.
But I remember that key day where it was finally warm enough, and it was like that day where I'm like, oh, I need to go sit on the patio and have an alcoholic beverage. But I was pregnant, so I was like kind of depressed that day, and I was like, man. And so instead, I sat in the tub and ate McDonald's.
Oh, no. I hate that you literally remember that one day of my life, and I was in the tub eating McDonald's.
Is that trauma? Is that trauma?
Might be, actually, because I've eaten McDonald's a lot in my life, and I couldn't say I have a core memory of that. Oh, I hate that for you.
Oh my God. No, it's fine.
But I guess if you have to have a traumatic memory, it might as well be eating freaking French fries in the tub. I mean, nice. Nicely done.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a picture.
I think you spun that well.
I'm pretty sure there's a picture that Simon took. He like walked into the bathroom, and I'm in the tub like with the bubble bath and stuff, and I'm eating McDonald's. So there's McDonald's wrappers and stuff on the side of the tub, and there's fucking candy wrappers in the water. Oh, no. Oh my God, it's insane. But,
I love that.
Okay, so I also want to tell you guys a funny.
Please do it.
And I haven't told you, Melissa.
Okay.
So this is like...
oh, yeah, that's right. She said, I'm so excited to hear. What's up?
Okay, so as everyone knows, as all of you know, my husband and I took our oldest to Chicago for his birthday. Funny enough, so again, we've talked about in previous episodes that Simon is adopted. So he has a biological dad, and he lives in the city.
You ambushed him.
Girl. Okay.
Oh, I'm right here. I'm here. Where's my tea? Okay.
So we took Logan to Chicago. And then the town that we went to next is called Fishers. Fishers is where Simon's best friends that he grew up with live.
Right.
And so we were staying with them for several days. Well, the first day that we get to his friend's house in Fishers, this is where his dad lives also, this town, randomly, like somehow. So we get to his friend's house on Friday, and we're all drinking. Yes, I drank. I had two alcoholic beverages, and man, I was feeling it. And so Simon, his friend, and I are buzzing. And it's 1:00 in the morning.
Okay.
And we had rented a hot red ragtop convertible Mustang, like, yeah. And so, a very non-conspicuous car, of course. So at 1:00 in the morning, we're all drinking, and we go,
You did it on a drunk. That's hilarious. That's like drunk dialing. But like to a total other level.
Full disclosure, the friend's husband was not drinking, and he was sober. So he goes, I'll drive y'all, but you guys got to behave. And so we're like, okay. And so then we like have an armful of toilet paper, and he was like,
wait a minute. You didn't say, I want to go find Simon's dad. You said, I want to fucking toilet paper his house?
Yeah. The story just took a turn. His dad refuses to acknowledge or talk to him. Like, won't even just say, like, hey, I don't want to be a part of your life. Like, there's no acknowledgement.
Wait, are we wanting to put this out in the world?
Yes. And he's like,
she's like, I couldn't wait.
And so he's like a really high ranking in the police department in Fishers. And so, yeah, we have like this armful full of like toilet paper to go TP his house. And Simon's friend's husband is like, no.
Okay.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay,
he goes,
good.
I will drive y'all. And he goes, but we're not defacing a police officer's house.
Okay, I'm feeling so much better now. I was like, wait, we should talk with your lawyer before we put this out on our podcast. Just kidding. I just wanted to say thank you, voice of reason.
All right. Do you want a funny? My fail?
Obviously.
My funny fail?
Obviously.
You see my face?
Yeah. It's a little swollen under the chin. You look like you have a lymph node that's like wanting to like burst free.
Yeah. So this last weekend, one of my best friends from high school got married, and I was a bridesmaid. I did not drink at the wedding. But everyone's like, dance off. And so everyone's, getting into this groove, and everyone's dancing and having a great time. And I go, I'm about to win this.
And I love how you get that like alcoholic confidence with not even having a drink.
It's a skill.
Nicely done.
It's a talent. And so my smart ass goes, I'm going to do the worm and I'm going to win this. And I hit my face on the floor, hence why my chin is swollen and bruised.
Aww. I think it's so cute that you're like the sexy girl out there and you're like, I'm going to win with the worm.
Oh, yeah. Not the twerking.
It's killing me. She's like, yeah, I used to do the worm all the time. It was like my signature dance move.
Oh, and I did do like, how like guys can flex their pecs?
Oh,
and
we can flex our boobs.
We can, and I'm sitting there going, look what I can do. Flex, 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 flex. And then they're like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should drink. I don't know.
Yes, you should do exactly what you do. You just be you. We love you so much.
What fail do you got, Melissa?
Oh, mine's not as funny, except for it kind of is if you like morbid funny. So I was working late one night trying to get some stuff finished before the big move for my shop. And I accidentally... Okay, it didn't happen on accident. Yes, it did, obviously. But it was because I was unsafe. Like, obviously, I know there's a certain way to hold the ruler and then hold the rotary cutting blade. And I basically was in a hurry. And so I kind of held the ruler sideways and did a swipe across my body instead of in front and out away from my body. And I didn't realize my pinky was hanging off the ruler. And I definitely cut off the tip of my pinky. And it was... Well, you can't really tell now. Here, let me show
I see the indent.
See how it's like flat there?
Yeah, there's definitely a gash scar there.
Yeah, so it was late at night. My first instinct is
Were you by yourself?
Yeah. And my first instinct is to call my husband. And honestly, we've never had an experience where there was like an emergency.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we haven't. And so this is funny because now I feel like, okay, now I know that's how he is in an emergency. He didn't handle. He was in shock too, I think, when he saw the blood and stuff. But
so he did calm down.
He came, but I don't think he really knew what to do. And so when he was on his way, I was thinking, well, wait, when I talked to him on the phone just now, I feel like he was a little bit I felt like I could hear in his voice that he was nervous
Worried.
and upset. So I thought, okay, wait, I'm going to call Jacob too, because I'm pretty sure Jacob can have like a real level head. Jacob was hilarious. He's like, okay, so I want you to take a picture of your finger. And I'm like, I can't. It won't stop bleeding. And then take... You guys, he made me take a picture of the chunk I chopped off.
Stop.
No.
Jacob, okay. We got to talk about this.
I said I need to know how big it is because I need to know if
You need to take it to the
we
hospital.
really need to go to the hospital. And then he's like, you know what? I sent him the picture and he goes, okay, that's not small. Like, because I guess I was playing it off on the phone. Like, it's not that bad, Jacob, but it also wouldn't stop bleeding. He's like, so something's not lining up here. I need to know what's actually going on. So he saw the picture. He's like, I'm coming down there right now. I should have left with Brett. He was like kicking himself and it was really cute and funny. So they both get there and we did end up in the emergency room that night. And they made me bag up the little piece and take it, which I think is hilarious because I was like, what are they going to do? They're not going to put this piece back on my finger.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is they were like, no, this is just to give them an idea of like what happened. And it's true. Like everybody that we like at the intake desk and then the check-in nurse. And then
if you had the piece.
Everybody asked, okay, can I see it? And then I looked and they go, oh, shit.
Okay.
Oh my God. I know, it's so funny. So like then finally the last lady, she was so nice. She was like, so yeah, you can just throw that in the trash. But the boys were sweet. I was like, so is it going to grow back? And she said it probably will. But yeah, actually it is flat on top. But honestly,
it's better than what I was expecting.
It's going to hurt
forever.
forever. Apparently this is going to be a memory for the rest of my life with me.
Is that trauma?
It doesn't look bad. No, actually, I'm fine with it.
What were you wearing?
What was I wearing? I don't even know. So
Okay.
I wasn't traumatized.
Yes.
We're acting like we're going to be a Melissa Walker here.
Thanks, Melissa Walker. We should take a cute picture of the shiner and your pinky. Oh my God, your pinky on my shiner.
We are doors.
But we are here to talk about important stuff today, Melissa. October is awareness month for so many things.
But because there's so many things to choose, though,
we had to pick one.
One. And it wasn't us alone that picked it. It was one of your friends.
Yeah, she actually came to us.
She did. And
she said, this is really important. This is my profession. And I would love to use your platform to share this.
Domestic violence awareness.
Domestic violence.
She's like, hey, I think I have a lot that I could share because people don't really understand. I don't think people know as much as we might think we do. Or if you haven't experienced it, right?
Yeah. In that brief conversation that we had with her, it turns out we don't.
Our minds were blown like a million times. So yeah, when she did that, we were like, no, we've got to meet with you. We've got to have a discussion. And yes, let's highlight the month. Let's try to bring awareness to this.
So maybe next year we'll focus on a different awareness, but I think this year, let's hit it.
Let's hit it.
Yeah. So we're super excited. Today we have with us Aria, who is a domestic violence and sexual assault investigator with the Dekalb County DA's office. So I'm really excited to hear what she has to tell us. Can you tell us a little bit about your history, how you got into what you're doing?
Yes. So I actually got into investigating these types of crimes for personal reasons. As a young child and growing into adulthood, I witnessed situations where people, particularly like children, women, and the elderly, were not able to kind of advocate for themselves. You know, they were in situations that they couldn't exactly get out of and didn't have a choice being in. And they're considered, quote unquote, special victims in kind of the law enforcement world, because they don't have as much opportunity or ability to help themselves. And just as a child, like I've always wanted to do that, to put myself in a position where I could help those who didn't help themselves. And then
kind of amazing that you saw that as a young child, like, hey, these people can't help themselves. Who's going to speak up for them?
Correct. And I always wanted to just be in a position where I could. So, when I started going to college, you know, I did get my bachelor's in criminal justice. I worked in a prison for about 2 years with the Georgia Department of Corrections, just to get some experience kind of in the law enforcement world. And then I went over to the Dekalb County Police Department. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to work in the Special Victims Unit. And I really got to kind of dive into some pretty serious cases involving the most vulnerable people in our population. And it was very difficult, but it was also very rewarding. I spent, I think, 2 years, I want to say, in the special victims unit with the police department. And I got, I would say, kind of recruited by Dekalb County DA's office. They said that, there is this opening in the domestic violence and sexual assault unit. And even though you would really only be focusing on DV and sexual assault cases as opposed to, everything else you're used to working on, like, we think you'd be a really good fit here. So I applied and here I am today. And I regularly work on cases. They're all felony cases involving victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And then we also handle homicides that are DV and SA related.
Oh, wow. Okay. How do you not bring that home?
What I found that helps is like being able to find like a therapist or a good friend at work or something like that I can kind of talk to about what's going on and like get it out and kind of get to the root of like, why is this case staying on my mind? And then, it eventually kind of like works itself out. But I feel like it's the same with any kind of job. Sometimes it's as simple as like going to my boss and saying, hey, like this is really hitting me heavy. And we'll just sit down and talk about it. And afterwards, I'll just feel great. And then sometimes it can be something as simple as like doing a workout or going for like a jog or whatever. Like it just kind of depends. So
Totally fair.
Yeah.
That's got to be nice to be able to, like, everyone's going through the same type of work at work and it's going to hit each individual different. So it's kind of nice to be able to pull someone aside and be able to be like, all right, I need to decompress. So just shut up and listen to me.
Right. And like that happens quite often. Like sometimes, in this job, we have not just investigators, but you have your attorneys, we have victim advocates, we have like trial assistants. So you get a little bit of everything. And sometimes like we'll just go into each other's office and be like, do you have a moment? I need like a closed door meeting and we can just kind of talk it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. My sister-in-law was in social work and up in Boston, the area, and she would do a lot of like home visits for children and stuff. And she got burned out really fast. So I think it does take a very special person and you do need to stay on top of your self-care.
100%. Burnout is very real, especially with like sensitive subjects like this. I feel like I always say this to people who are coming in. If you're not taking care of yourself, then you cannot provide the best care for the victims that we help on a daily basis. You have to be taking care of yourself and your mental health to be able to provide the best services to these victims that we work with. So it's a very big thing. That's one thing I can say, like shout out to the DA's office because they're very big on making sure that you yourself are well taken care of. Like if you need a mental break, if you need help, whatever it is, they're like right on board with helping you out in that scenario.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, that actually kind of makes me think like who are the victims? We talked about domestic violence and sexual assault. I think you might have even prepared a quiz for us to see what we know about these things.
I just had like some basic statistics. So I just wanted to see like kind of what y'all thought. The first question that I had for you guys is domestic violence equivalent to physical violence?
Oh, I know the answer to this because it can be, I believe, but it's also could be a lot of emotional abuse and such going on too, right? It doesn't have to be physical, is my opinion.
There's different kinds other than just physical.
Correct. So y'all hit the nail on the head on that one. Domestic violence is not always physical violence. There is this theme in domestic violence situations of power and control, and that can be executed in many different ways. And I think it kind of culminates in physical violence, but in the buildup, there can be a lot of emotional abuse. There can be isolation. There can be financial abuse. There can even be sexual abuse that can occur before a physical incident occurs. And then once that physical incident occurs, things kind of de-escalate and they backtrack and you're in this like love bombing phase.
Oh, yes. I've experienced this. Sorry. I won't share right now, but I might a little bit later actually, but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It was like a light bulb just now.
I could literally see it like in your eyes when it connected.
Yeah.
So, and at first I'm sorry if you have experienced that. That's never a situation that we want to be in, but some
No.
people do find themselves in these kind of situations, where everything is going wonderful. You think you've met this perfect match. In the beginning, it's always very kind, very loving, gifts, presents, like adoration, always thinking about you, going out of their way to do things for you. And then,
Yeah, like more thoughtful than you maybe have ever been with anybody who was before.
exactly, correct. But when you're in a DV relationship, that turns out to be a mask. It turns out to be a facade, something that can only be held up for so long. You get caught with those kinds of behaviors. You're in love. You don't know how anybody could be so kind, so caring, so loving. And then once they've got you, the behaviors start to change. And you see some of those things that I mentioned before. So, long story short, you're correct that domestic violence is not always physical violence. True or false, 1 in 8 women experience physical and sexual violence and stalking in their lifetime. And then, just as an added caveat, if you say false, do you think it's more? Or do you think it's less?
I'm saying false because I think it's more.
I want to say more, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. And then, before I give you that answer, I'm going to say true or false. 1 in 10 men experience physical or sexual violence and or stalking in their lifetime.
Sure. I think it's less for men, but I think that it's something that we do forget about and don't look into.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's less, but I definitely think that we forget about it sometimes.
Okay. And so just to clarify, I know she said true. Would you say true or false?
For the men, I think I'm going to say false to the number,
Okay.
but it doesn't mean I don't think it happens. I just think it might be a little higher. I don't know.
A little higher.
I don't know.
Okay.
But yes, false. Sorry.
Okay.
We need an answer.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good. I just wanted to clarify if you thought it was like higher or lower
I think it's higher.
for men.
Yes.
Okay. And then you both said higher for women. Okay. So the correct answer is for women, it is false. It is higher. It's 1 in 4 women experience physical sexual violence in their lifetime. So that's 25% women. So if we had one more woman in this room, then at least one of us would have experienced physical or sexual violence or stalking in their lifetime, which is a lot. It's kind of heavy. And then for the men, it is actually true. 1 in 10, so about 10% of men experience those same situations in their lifetime. And I do think that Sam is right. We do tend to forget that like men can be victims of domestic violence. Men can be victims of sexual violence.
Yep.
And we tend to not speak on that as much. And part of that has to do with like the reporting of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's what I was going to ask.
Mhm.
Like, I think at least 2 of us in this room have a man in our life who is a victim of some serious crimes like this. So it's something that you just don't really think about and should until it happens to someone close to you.
Yeah. And that's what I was kind of wondering. Do we trust the numbers, or is that just because of reporting? Like men are more scared to report.
I mean, there's always a slant or a skew. So there is across the board between men and women. All of these crimes are underreported.
Okay.
So the numbers that we have are just numbers that we have based on reporting of these incidents. And this is just my opinion. This is not based on any independent research that I have done, but I do believe that men are less likely to report these incidences. But these numbers are just based on what has been reported.
Okay.
And I think that since this is just based off of the actual report, I would venture to say that an extra 25% of women do not report.
Or I mean, who knows the number, but yeah, definitely. I agree with you. It's underreported for women too.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
Agree. Okay. So this one is going to be a little bit heavy, but I think it's important for people to know like this statistic and be aware of their surroundings is what I would say. So,
Okay.
the presence of a firearm in a domestic violence incident increases the risk of homicide by how much?
Actually, that somehow came up in a search that I just did, like literally yesterday,
Wait,
last night.
Then maybe I should answer.
Yeah,
first.
so I'm not going to answer because I know the answer on accident.
Oh, geez. I feel like a lot because you're thinking with your prefrontal cortex. Like you're not in your right mind when you're an angry person who's capable of doing these abusive things. So if there's a gun in your hand and you're not in your right mind, then I can't imagine it would be, not saying I'm a murderer, but I feel like it would be really easy to pull a trigger, or even if it was something you never thought you might do. So I guess it could raise it by 50%.
So you're already sitting down. The number, it's 500%.
Holy,
Yeah.
holy
500%.
Are you serious? I thought 50 was a lot.
Yeah. The presence of a firearm in a domestic violence incident increases the risk of a homicide by 500%.
Oh my gosh.
Which is why some of these cases that we handle are so dangerous. And people,
Oh, my heart just is like down here. Okay.
it's very scary and it's very serious. True or false? 20 people every minute are abused by intimate partners. And this is like nationwide.
I'm pretty sure that popped up on my, I don't know what the hell I was searching. I think that's true.
You're trying to prep for the meeting today. I guess I would say true.
Okay, that one is true. That one is true. Every minute, 20 people are abused by intimate partners. The last one is, how many times does it take a victim to leave a domestic violence situation before it actually sticks?
Before they stay separate.
Okay.
Oh, how
This is
long?
average. 5? Okay. Years?
No, times.
Just time.
Incidents, like separation incidents.
How many times? How many times did I leave? Let's see. I think 4 or 5. 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is actually 7. It is 7.
Oh,
It takes,
wow.
on average, a victim 7 attempts to leave their abuser before it actually sticks,
Wow.
which is,
That's some psychological trauma.
it is. It is a lot of trauma.
This is why people tend to kind of brush off the victims, is because you went back 7 times. You're not going to leave and you're not going to stay left. So now I'm going to stop helping you because I don't believe you.
And that does happen a lot. And you said a lot there. So you said that people brush off the victim, which is true. And then, I'm not going to help you. Like, okay, they're getting tired of this person leaving and leaving and leaving and then going back and going back and going back. So they're tired of like the back and forth.
Yeah, I don't want to hear another incident.
And then the other thing you said is, so now I don't believe you, which is, it just kind of gave me chills. Like, it takes a lot for a victim who is caught in this cycle of violence to leave, because there's so many aspects that somebody who's in a healthy relationship just can't fathom or can't imagine. And if you have never been in that situation, you will never know what it feels like. You won't understand why people say, but like, just a thought, think about a healthy relationship that you've had in the past, whether it's a friend, a job, or a partner.
Okay.
And I want you to think about the moment that you thought that this is not going to work out and I need to leave. And then how long did it take you to actually leave that relationship?
In a healthy relationship?
Or even it can be unhealthy, but not abusive.
Okay.
Just a relationship that you found yourself in that just wasn't working out for you. And then how long did it actually take you to leave?
Yeah, actually, it took some time.
And then were you in fear for your life? Like if you left?
No, I didn't even have all that stuff going on. No. But I still kind of kept trying to, give the benefit of the doubt. Or it's like, there's so much shame And I don't know why, ending a relationship, it's like it should be forever or nothing. And I think that has maybe something to do with it, our society, the way we see.
That could also be like a lot of us, maybe this is wrong, but a lot of us do have like that empathy of like, oh, this is going to hurt them. Like they're going to feel bad, even though I know that this is not the forever for me.
I think that is
being a
part of it.
One is the thinking about the other person.
Yeah. Feeling like you're being selfish.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I could see that being the same for domestic abuse. You feel like you're being selfish because they need help, obviously.
Yeah. And they just needed someone to stick by them, and no one's ever like been there to help them. And they had a really horrible childhood growing up, and they just need someone to help them through, like understand they have so much potential.
So a lot of what you're saying is tactics that are actually used by abusive partners to get their victims to stay in this relationship. They coerce the victims. They shift blame away from themselves. Oh, like, well, I was abused in my childhood and I thought that was healthy. You make me a better person, and I need help. I need to know how to do this correctly. They shift that blame off of themselves to somebody else. They try to get the victim that they are abusing to feel sorry for them. All of that kind of happens before the like love bombing stage is, I've just hurt this person. I need to get them back on my side.
Yeah.
Doing whatever I need to do and saying whatever I need to say to get them to come back. I didn't mean to. It wasn't intentional. It was an accident. This is what I'm used to.
It was an accident. That's the one that happened a lot.
Yeah.
In my past.
Yeah.
And it's like, after so many accidents, you kind of start thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it's true. I don't know why, but you rationalize for them.
Mm-hmm. Or this wouldn't have happened if you didn't. So they maybe even engage in some victim blaming themselves. Well, like, you know how I am. You know that this is a trigger for me. You knew that if you said those things or you did this thing, that it would enrage me. You knew that I would get angry. You knew that this would happen. So why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the victim will sit there and internalize that. Whatever it is, whatever the tactic is that the abuser is using to get the victim to rationalize that behavior, the victim internalizes that.
Yeah.
So it's not just a physical violence, it's a mental manipulation. And abusers kind of rewire the brain of their victims. Red flags. Abusers know that the best way for a victim to get out of an abusive situation is with the help of others. So one of the first signs, I would say, of an abusive relationship, and this is not like all relationships, like some people are just couch potatoes and they don't want to go anywhere. That doesn't mean like if I'm telling you like, hey, I'm going to cancel, I don't want to go, it doesn't mean I'm being abused.
Right.
But this is just one of the signs, abusers will.
Well, especially if it's like, the person and suddenly they're not wanting to come out and is what you're kind of saying, I think.
Exactly. Especially for like those social butterflies, abusers will isolate their victim. And however they do that, whether it's by making the victim feel guilty, like, oh, you're spending too much time away, you're not spending enough time with me, you don't care about me, you don't love me, or whether it's a financial situation of like, you had this person who was in control of their own finances and the abuser comes in and says, hey, you don't have to work anymore. I got you. I can take care of you. I can give you money to go do this, that, and the third. And at first you're like, oh, this is great. So you leave your job and, at first that person is giving you money to go do things with your friends and you're having a great time. And then the money stops coming. And that's when like the controlling starts coming in. Well, like, you're not working. We don't have the funds for you to go out and hang out with your friends all the time. And you just need to stay home and save us money by like watching the kids or whatever the situation may be. It could be a financial element. And so you see your friend less and less and they don't come out anymore and they're not, obviously I can't go into specifics, but what I can say is there are a lot of DV situations, like DV incidents that start over a victim's phone. An abuser will be concerned about who that victim is messaging, what they're saying, what they're doing, what plans are they making. Let me see your phone. I want to know who you're talking to and why you're talking to them. And a lot of incidents will start out like that because this phone that a victim has in their hand, like it drives, for whatever reason, an abuser crazy because they don't have control of that.
Yeah, it represents a link to the outside world, and I can see that.
So,
Wow.
you know, a lot of times victims will just kind of like give in, or, they'll stop doing the thing that's triggering the explosion in the abuser.
Let me paint the picture of our trip to the Windsor Boutique Hotel in Asheville, North Carolina. It's dark, it's storming, we're lost, no clue where we're going, but all of a sudden, the beautiful building is right in front of us. Stop that. We're greeted by a gentleman. He comes outside with us, gets all of our bags, brings them in all the way upstairs. It was fantastic.
Each suite has its own unique vibe. They were able to strike a perfect balance between luxury, but still keeping it cozy and homey. But what I loved most about the Windsor Boutique Hotel, as a small business owner myself, I loved that they locally source everything in the room. Chocolates, coffee, soaps, all from local businesses in Asheville.
And don't forget to say hi to Penny.
The dog?
Yes, the dog.
So the next time that you're in Asheville, definitely book your stay at the Windsor Boutique Hotel.
Mention Skirts Up, and they will take care of you like they did us, just like family.
Skirts Up.
And just to save an argument or save the hassle, or they say, well, if I don't do this because I know it's a trigger for them, maybe it'll stop happening. Maybe I won't get yelled at. Maybe I won't be demeaned or belittled. Maybe he won't hit me. Or she. I tried so hard not to say he or she.
Degendered.
Yes, because there are male victims. So if I do say she,
to that.
yeah. But I mean, as we can see from the numbers, there are more female victims than there are male victims. So like, that's what I'm used to dealing with. So I probably will like slip up and say she. But again, that's not to say that males are not victims of domestic violence.
Right.
They most certainly are.
What other red flags are there?
Yeah. So isolation is definitely a big one. Finances are a big one, because if you take away somebody's finances, you take away their ability to get out. So if you isolate them, make them lose their friends and family so they don't have anybody to turn to anymore. So this person is alone, and now this person's finances are controlled by their abuser. So even if they wanted to get out, they've been isolated and they don't have the financial means to get out. And it can and is dangerous for somebody who is financially dependent upon their partner to squirrel away money, or to try and hide it. Because if that money is found,
Shit will hit the fan.
correct.
Simon will tell you, I have this fear of no money. And so like a squirrel, I hide like any cash I get. And so he'll be helping me clean something. He'll be like, why is there $20 in a pillowcase? And I'm like, oh, sorry.
So, because do you feel like that does come from your past a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean-
I'm definitely a little money hoarder. Like I need to have and know where the abundance is that's in my control so that I can feel safe. And that's something that we're, got to work through.
Yeah.
Some more red flags would be like, if you notice that your friend is like minimizing unacceptable behaviors. So like minimizing would be like, oh, well, this situation wasn't that bad. Denying is obviously like, oh, it didn't happen. Like you ask, oh, how did you get that bruise on your eye? And your friend says, oh, I burned myself with a curling iron. And you can clearly see that that's like a black eye and not a burn. That's denying. And shifting blame would be like kind of what I talked about earlier. Well, I knew this was a trigger for that person and I did this. So really, I created that incident. Like I put myself in that situation.
I'm hearing is that maybe the person who'll recognize abuse first is your friends or family. Maybe
Before you.
maybe the victim won't realize the signs.
And I think that's valid, because you always go into a new relationship or something with rose-colored glasses. Oh, I won't say always, because some people are very good at pointing out some red flags. But I feel like for me personally, I always go into new situations with rose-colored glasses, whether it be like a new job or a new relationship or a new friendship.
You're taught to go in positive, drop the baggage. You can't put the blame onto the new thing.
And it's hard when you're in it and you really want something to work out to just accept the signs for what they are. It's not really a red flag.
Right.
Well, and then when it gets to the point where there's an obvious red flag, this person is putting their hands on me, you're kind of already in too deep. It's kind of too late. And I don't mean too late as in the sense of you can never get out, but you're already caught up in it,
This really is just making me think of even all the people like myself and then people that I know in general. The idea that you're in an abusive relationship doesn't start with you. It starts with the outer people in your circle saying, "Hey, do you think that's appropriate? Do you think that's right?" Wow, I actually don't think that you actually always know.
Yeah. It's interesting, just a little snippet of my own past. Somebody that I was with in the past, it took 3 times calling my friend to come pick me up from random places, because my significant other had kicked me out of the car or just left me somewhere. And I would always think, well, no, I shouldn't have egged him on. We were having a huge fight. I could have
Just stop talking.
Yes. And then my friend, she had to come pick me up, and she was the one that had to tell me, hey, this is not okay. This is abusive. And I would say, no, it's not abusive. It's not abusive because I wasn't getting hit. And
I think that's a lot of, that's a mistaken concept that abuse equals physical violence, and abuse does not equal physical violence. Abuse can look like a lot of things.
The light bulb I had earlier was when you said it's a control cycle. It is. It's a power cycle, and the abuser needs to hold the power.
Just to play the devil's advocate, though.
Yeah.
So the way this conversation is going is that the abuser knows what they're doing, and these are the tactics that they use. They know their past, and they're using that as their crutch. Don't you think that there's abusers who don't put that 2 and 2 together and don't really know what they're doing and how they're affecting their partners?
Oh.
I mean, so I'm not a therapist or a psychologist, so I can't necessarily speak to knowing how their brain works. And on top of that, I'm not them, right? So I can't say for certain, but what I can say is that even if an abuser is not quote unquote aware or consciously making those decisions, oh, I'm going to hurt this individual, or, oh, I'm going to have power and control over this individual. Even if those are not conscious decisions, the behavior is still wrong.
Yeah.
And they know it's wrong.
That's why they love bomb.
Again, I think that sometimes they may not know it's wrong, and they don't see that they're taking this win and this power. And then so now I'm going to nitpick on this one, and I'm going to take this power until all of a sudden it's a big accumulative, big thing. If there is no physical. Obviously, if there's physical.
So I think they do know it's wrong after it happens, when they start saying, I'm sorry, and trying to do everything they can, because they're like, oh no, I should have done that. I'm about to lose my person. And then they start love bombing. At that point, there's not really you can't say they didn't know it wasn't wrong.
True. So maybe at that point, no, it's not the right relationship. And then hopefully that would tick in their mind of okay, I was not a good person. Let me do better.
So to this day, I do believe that one of my exes that I was in a very unhealthy relationship with, I believe to this day that he didn't do any of it.
even conscientiously, like you were saying. I think he was very unhealthy, did not try to work on himself,
Didn't have self-confidence.
didn't have lots of reasons, lots of things, yes. But I do believe that when he would do something wrong, he did know he did something wrong, because they would turn around into that, like, oh my gosh, don't leave me, I'm sorry, and we're going to get through this together. It was always like we're a team, it's us against the world kind of a thing. And so I, to this day, believe that he didn't like plan to hurt me. And we've talked since, actually. And he's said things like, I've grown a lot. I grew a lot with you. And I'm like, I hope so. But
I mean, not trying to downplay.
I think there's like a subconsciousness that maybe isn't.
I think it can go either way. I don't think that they always intentionally go out and set and know what they're doing. But there are for sure the ones who know what they're doing.
I think it goes back to thinking with that frontal lobe, right? You're in the moment. You're so angry. You're not in very well, like have very much self-control, confidence even that can, support whatever. But I think it's like, maybe you're not planning to do it, but when you get worked up and you get upset, and then they do things that they regret. But it doesn't make it right, like you said.
And the thing that we're talking about in these kinds of situations, it's not like this is a one and done scenario. You can only remain ignorant of what you're doing for so long. Like, if you do something one time and you find out like that this is wrong and I shouldn't be doing it, and then you stop, that's one thing. But these individuals who find themselves in these domestic violence like relationships, this happens consistently over and over. It's a cycle. It's not a one and done scenario. It's not I realized that I messed up in this situation. I handled it wrong. And like, this is never going to happen again. I'm going to make sure it's never going to happen again. This is I'm going to tell you that I was wrong in the moment, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get you back. And then I am going to do it again. And it is going to happen until you no longer let me.
Or even even if they don't think I'm going to do it again, they're definitely not trying to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So what would you say to make this not feel like I'm just being sensitive and telling? Like, how do you go to the police department? Hey, my husband is the only one that has access to our bank account, and I am not allowed to talk to my friends. Like, that's just going to sound like a you problem, right?
Well, not saying that the police department wouldn't help you, but like the police department's main role is to intervene when crimes have occurred.
Already happened.
Typically, that's what happens, is like they get caught out after something has already happened. Sometimes like people are kind of wise enough to call for like kind of intervention situation.
Sam made me have this question because I know I'm interrupting a little, but I feel like it's on topic about. So do you say you get more calls from the actual person who has the courage to go and get help? Or is it from like somebody's wanting to intervene? Like you were just kind of saying.
It depends. Just strictly from speaking from a police department like standpoint, you get calls where like a neighbor can hear something going on, or like a witness, like just somebody who happens to be walking by sees this and is like, oh my God, this is terrible, I'm going to call the police. And then the victim like never gets the chance to call, whether it's because the abuser has taken their phone, which happens a lot, because if you don't have a phone, you can't get help. So we do get calls from bystanders. And then a lot of times the victim, after a situation has happened and is able to get back to their phone, does call the police. But in a situation like I feel like Sam was asking, where that physical violence hasn't happened yet, but you can kind of see all the signs, that's when I feel like it's important to lean into your resources, whether that's friends and family, or whether that's reaching out to the domestic violence hotline or the women's resource center, or even like a therapist. Say, this is going on. Because sometimes I feel like when a victim is in those situations, I've heard this a lot, like they feel like they're crazy for even
like you said. I agree.
In an abusive situation. Like, am I just crazy, or are these things, is this abuse?
Yeah.
Like reaching out to your resources, whether it be your therapist, your friend's family, your domestic violence hotline.
And they kind of counsel you on the domestic violence hotline. Like if you
obviously, I feel like if they're controlling your money and who you talk to and stuff, likely if you say, "Hey, can I afford a therapist?" they're gonna be like, "No." So like if you call the
I
domestic
was thinking
hotline,
the same thing.
like they'll be able, you can,
I feel like
you know,
a
talk to
hotline
them
might be
like
more
a therapist,
accessible.
kind of.
They do have like 24-hour hotlines. Both the Women's Resource Center and the Domestic Violence Hotline have that. And a lot of the victims in these situations do not have control of the situation because their abuser has taken that. The advocates who work for the Women's Resource Center or Domestic Violence Hotline know this, and they have like contingencies and plans in place and like resources pulled up and ready to go to kind of assist with, you know, helping a victim figure out how to not only get out of that situation, but how to safely get out, because that's one of the number one things. Like if we take it back to when I told you, like, hey, think about a time where you have tried to leave a relationship that maybe that wasn't abusive, maybe was unhealthy, or maybe it even was a healthy relationship. You didn't have that fear hanging over your shoulder of like, if I leave this person, they're going to find me, they're going to hurt me, or worse, they're going to kill me. You know, a lot of in situations where there are children involved, an abuser can use children as leverage. If you leave me, you'll never see your kids again.
Yeah, I know somebody who as a child like begged her mother, like, why are we still here? Please, let's go. And the mom was just always crying and just like, I can't. Where am I supposed to go? I have no money. I can't take care of you guys. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
When you're faced with that situation, like really, what are you supposed to do? From the outside looking in, you have a child with the abuser. The abuser has control of all the money. You don't work. You don't have family because you've been isolated, or even worse, the abuser has up and moved you from your hometown and put you in bum somewhere, like, I don't know.
I think that happens a lot,
It does,
right?
It does. And you have literally zero resources, zero friends. What do you do? Do you take your child with you to live on the streets until you can figure out what to do? Or do you leave your child with the abuser, get yourself out, get yourself stable, and then hope that your child is still there when you can get them to safety?
Oh, that's horrifying. This is horrifying. What do they do?
Yeah.
Is this when you're saying, like, in this instance, the severe instance that you're talking about, like, what is the solution?
A lot of times it feels like there aren't any. But what I have found happens is that sometimes the state steps in and makes the decision for them.
I wanted to ask you kind of a two-part question. So first question is, who is susceptible to this kind of abuse?
Anybody. And that's kind of a scary thing when you think about it. But just because you are educated on these facts doesn't mean that you're not susceptible to this kind of abuse or this kind of relationship. I believe an abuser knows what they're doing. They know how to hide the red flags until it's too late. Anybody can find themselves in these kinds of relationships, and that's why it's so important to know what you're looking for. So for me personally, again, I said part of the reason I got into this was personal reasons that I've seen these things happen to people that I know and love and care about, but they've also happened to me. And I'm somebody who has a criminal justice background, a law enforcement background. I've taken the classes, I've taken the courses, like I know what to look for. But I still found myself in one of these kinds of relationships. And you always think like, if somebody does something to me, I'm leaving. And nothing is going to prevent me from leaving because wrong is wrong. We all know that that's not true. That's why I asked you at the beginning. Think of a relationship you had a hard time leaving.
Yeah.
Or even like a toxic work environment. You can't leave one toxic work environment until you have something else.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And
you can't leave not a relationship until you have another relationship lined up, but you can't leave like your home until you have another home lined up, you know? Yeah. And so anybody can find themselves in this kind of relationship, and it can be so, so hard to get out of. And speaking from like personal experience, mine was a relationship where there was physical violence, where there was a lot of coercion and manipulation and blame shifting and internalizing. Like maybe if I didn't do this, he wouldn't act this way. If I did what he wanted me to do, we wouldn't have any problems. Maybe I should just be a better person. And I left multiple times. I think like I want to say four times before it finally stuck, and it was very difficult because I was living with this person and I had to figure out like how to safely and secretively line up my new living space and my new living situation. And it took a long time, and it took a lot of like kind of pretending and going along with and doing what this person wanted until I knew I was like finally in a good place to be able to leave.
So, if you don't mind, how can we help our friends or anyone that we, even maybe people we don't know in the community too?
What did you need in that situation?
I just needed a friend who would be there when I needed them, no matter how many times I'd said I was going to leave, no matter how many times I showed up like bruised and bloodied or whatever and said like, this is never going to happen again, blah, blah, blah. I needed a friend who would be there every time I called, like offer their help, because at the end of the day, it is so much harder getting out of a situation alone than it is with the help of others. And for me, I've been on the other end of things too. I've been the friend of somebody who was in a very toxic, very abusive relationship. And no matter when she called, I went to pick her up. No matter what had happened, I would be honest with her. Like, I'm going to love you no matter what, but you need to get out. I'm like, I'm always going to be here. And I don't agree with you being in the relationship, but I'm going to support you. And I don't mean I'm going to support you as in like, I'm going to fake it and tell you that I love this relationship and I love this for you. No, I'm going to tell you I don't love this for you. I think that this is an abusive relationship. But if you ever need an out, I am here for you.
I think that's huge.
I feel like I didn't necessarily have that. Somebody who would both be honest with me, but B, also stick around to help me with the aftermath. A lot of it was like, I had friends who would ghost me, who just like couldn't handle seeing me in that situation. So they just stopped reaching out, stopped hanging out, stopped accepting my invitations. I had friends who would still show up, but would lie to me and wouldn't like tell me what they really thought about my relationship, which is also damaging because it like made me feel like maybe I was crazy. Like maybe I was the problem. Like maybe I was the crazy one. If my friends who are coming around are like just acting like everything is hunky dory and is okay.
Goes back to me saying that the victim isn't going to always know that they're the victim unless they're outside is letting them know this is not healthy. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean like you say I'm in a DV relationship and you're my friend and I invite you over that you like tell me all this in front of my abuser. Like, don't do that. That's dangerous.
Right.
But like when we're in a private place alone, like be honest with your friends. If you can see something wrong, say something. And I know that a lot of times we are told to like not get involved in other people's business. Don't ask questions. Don't insert yourself because you might lose your friend, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. But I would much rather be the one who inserted myself on the front end. And when that person finally decided to leave the relationship, I was there to pick things up on the back end, than be the one who didn't insert myself and end up at their funeral.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a powerful one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So we've talked a lot about unhealthy relationships and what that looks like and how to get out of it. But how do we know that we are in a healthy relationship? What does that look like?
Yeah. Good question.
So there's not going to be like a cookie cutter answer for this, but there are like common elements that you will find in a healthy relationship that you're not going to find in an abusive one. And number one being equality. And whether that's got to do with finances, whether that's got to be decisions that are made around the house, decisions about work, even like home buying or whatever the case may be, there's going to be some equality there. You're going to be partners. There's not going to be one who's like in power and control all the time and one who is not. So equality is a big one. And how you decide that equality is kind of like divvied out is up to you in your personal relationship, but you'll know it's there and you'll know when it's lacking.
That's interesting. You kind of even, I was about to ask you a question, and I feel like that maybe the equality answer you just gave is, in a way, how do you tell what's real versus a mask? But it sounds like you're not going to have equality if there's even if there's a mask on.
Yeah, eventually you'll see when the mask falls off. But I think there's some other aspects that like will kind of point to this. Like, how do you know if it's real
Healthy
and
or
healthy?
real? Okay.
And then one of them is going to be compromise, not coercion. There's a difference between compromising and reaching a decision about something you maybe don't agree on together. Another one is going to be maybe controversial, but like personal time. Relationships are not the healthiest when you spend all of your time up under each other. If you
Tendency.
correct. If you feel like you don't have the freedom or the ability to go do something on your own time, either by yourself or just without your partner, like maybe with your friends or maybe with your family, if there's some kind of struggle there, I would say that that's not really healthy. A healthy relationship is one where you can take your own personal time away from each other and still be okay.
Have your own hobbies and start a podcast.
Yes.
Switch it up, bitches. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like,
right.
example of healthy relationship. Like, you got to go start a podcast and do your own thing.
We're not afraid
to successfully.
Yeah.
It didn't cause like rifts in your marriage.
We're very lucky.
And it's totally okay. I'm not saying like, if you're not allowed to go start a podcast, your relationship is unhealthy. Like,
no, that's
other situations where like, maybe the time is not right to start a podcast, but that's totally different from like, you are not allowed, you know?
Completely.
A healthy relationship should have two partners in it who are able to take responsibility for their actions. And even if they aren't able to do it all the time, the attempt is there. One of the other things is trust. You know, there has to be some kind of mutual trust in your relationship. For it to be a healthy one, you should trust what your partner is saying, what your partner is doing, trust that they're just as invested in this relationship as you are. And then last but definitely not least, I would say is respect. If there is not respect in your relationship, then you are in an unhealthy relationship.
Define respect.
Respect is, the biggest form is like you should respect your partner enough not to put your hands on your partner, but also little things like differences of opinion. You shouldn't be talking down to your partner, belittling your partner. You want your relationship to be healthy. You want yourself to be the best version of you that you can be, so that your partner can be the best version of them that they can be. You know, right?
It makes me remember, okay, there is no perfect relationship. Like you said, there's going to be arguments. We're not to be 100%. But there's a difference between, you can still be healthy and have issues without having it be
domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Abusive.
Yeah, for sure. And again, there's also a difference between a healthy relationship, an unhealthy relationship, and an abusive relationship. Just because your relationship wouldn't be abusive, like we described here, if I'm listing like, what is a healthy relationship? And you're like, I don't think that the relationship I'm in hits these marks. Maybe it's something that you should consider getting yourself out of, because you don't want to be in an unhealthy relationship just as much as you don't want to be in an abusive one.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this. Not every one of us here, well, maybe not here, but listening, not all of us know somebody in a relationship like this. But what can we do to help?
By this topic.
We are. So what can we do to help the community?
Yeah. So I'm going to shamelessly plug for a second.
Shamelessly plug away.
Yes. So the district attorney's office that I work for, Dekalb County, our DA, Sherry Boston, hosts a love run every single year. It is a 5K, and the proceeds from this run is meant to help raise awareness of like teen dating violence. And all the benefits go to the Women's Resource Center to end domestic violence. Okay. And the Women's Resource Center provides so many resources.
Is that like shelters?
So that's one of the things that they do provide. So they provide like emergency shelter, counseling, legal aid, just all kinds of things. The race next year is going to be on February 22nd.
Okay.
Registration is open now, and I can send you guys like the information for that. This year is the 10th annual race, and if you join the Love Run with a group of 10 or more, whether it's like family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, whatever, teams of 10 are going to receive a 10% discount on registration. And again, it goes to a good cause. You know, you get a nice t-shirt, you get some exercise, and at the end of the day, you get to know that you've helped like victims of domestic violence in some way, shape, or form.
Sam, what are you doing on February 22nd?
I'm going to be there, but can I like have a margarita hanging out of my mouth while I'm power walking?
Just don't tell me what's in your cup.
You can walk, run, crawl, lightly jog. Look,
Power scooter?
even power scooter. You can even get one of those like cute little red wheelbarrow things. Not wheelbarrow. What's that word?
Wagon?
Wagon.
Yeah. February 22nd.
Absolutely. And
Where is it?
it is in downtown Decatur on the square.
Okay.
So after, you like totally exhaust yourself, because I know after I do a 5K, I feel like I'm going to like die. You can just walk yourself on over to the square and have a nice little beverage and a nice little snacky snack.
I'm saying a good incentive, maybe if like, the little firemen like carry us on over to get a little snack.
Oh my God. Not objectifying anyone.
And I don't mean no.
Oh my God. We didn't think you did.
Okay, sorry.
You're okay.
I'm not sorry.
I don't think she is. No, okay, amazing. I love it. We're running on the 22nd. We're doing it. It's done.
Y'all are gonna skirts up squad.
If we can get 10 skirts up people to join, then we can get a 10% off discount.
Yeah. We'll have a party afterwards. We'll all have a drink together. Aria, this was such a productive conversation. We're so glad that you were here.
It's
thank
really
you.
Nice of
for
you to
sharing your personal experience too, because I feel like it's really, really important. It can happen to anyone. Like even someone who has the knowledge, resources.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Like you said, it can happen to anybody. It happened to me, and I knew the signs. I knew what to look out for. So there is no shame if you find yourself in this kind of situation. If you find yourself in a domestic violence relationship, just do what you can to get out. Reach out, get help, use some of the resources that we've provided, and do what you have to do to get out safely. And if you're listening and you have maybe a friend who's kind of going through the same thing, and maybe you've fallen off because you just don't understand why they don't just leave, maybe this is your sign to reach out to your friend and let them know that you are there for them and that you will be there for them to help get them through this.
Thank you. I literally just got chills.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's never too late.
It's not.
To show your love. Keep in mind, skirts up. We are a safe place. So if you don't feel safe or comfortable going to any of the resources that have been mentioned in this episode, reach out to us. We will make sure that we can do what we can to support you.
Yep. And if it needs to be anonymous or however it is, we want to be here for you. Thank you so much, Aria.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you liked what you heard today, hit that like button, or the subscribe button, or whatever button it is that you have.
Just hit it. To continue this conversation with us, join the Skirts Up Show on, what is it again?
Well, we have Facebook, we have YouTube,
and Pinterest.
And no, we do not have a Pinterest, but we have Instagram.
You knew what I meant. Rate and review. Rate and review.